Your first reaction is not truth. It feels like truth. It hits fast. It feels sharp, certain, real. But that's exactly why it's dangerous. You think your first thought is insight, but it's not insight. It's impulse. Someone ignores your message immediately. They don't respect you. Someone looks at you the wrong way. Instantly, something is wrong. A plan fails. The reaction comes before the facts. This is a disaster. Notice the pattern. It's fast, it's emotional, and it's almost always wrong. Most people live their entire lives inside these first reactions. They don't question them. They don't slow them down. They build decisions, relationships, and identities on something that appeared in less than a second. And then they wonder why everything feels unstable. You think you're reacting to reality, but you're reacting to your interpretation of reality. That's the trap. Because between what happens and what you feel, there is a hidden step. And you've been skipping it your entire life. That step is judgment, not the event, not the feeling, the judgment. But you don't see it because it happens too fast. So it feels like truth. It feels like this is bad. But what actually happened was, I decided this is bad. And that decision, it wasn't conscious. It was automatic. You think your emotions just happened to you, but most people don't realize the emotions grow after something else. After you agree with the first thought, after you accept it, after you say silently, yes, this is true. That moment is invisible, but it controls everything. Because once you agree with the thought, the emotion follows like a shadow. Anger, anxiety, fear, resentment, not from the world, from your agreement with it. You think the world is exhausting you, but it's your unfiltered reactions doing the damage. And the worst part, you don't even notice when it starts. It's automatic, immediate, invisible until it's too late, until the emotion is already in control, until the day is already shaped by something that was never true to begin with. And now you're reacting to something you created. That's why you feel stuck, because you're not reacting to reality. You're reacting to your first thought about reality, and no one ever taught you not to trust it. Watch your day carefully. It's not events that drain you. It's the meaning you attach to them. You think your stress comes from what happens, but most of it comes from how fast you judge what happens. A message comes late. You think something is wrong. A task feels hard. You think, I can't handle this. Someone disagrees with you. You think, I'm being attacked. And just like that, your body reacts. Tension, pressure, resistance, not because of reality, because of interpretation. Most people never pause between those steps. Event to reaction, no space, no awareness, no control. That's why everything feels overwhelming, because every moment becomes personal. Everything becomes a signal. Everything becomes a threat. You think you're sensitive, but you're actually unfiltered. You allow every impression to pass straight into belief. And once it becomes belief, it becomes emotion. And once it becomes emotion, it becomes behavior. Now, you're acting on something that was never verified. You snap at people. You avoid things. You overthink conversations that never meant anything, all because of the first thought. You think you're analyzing, but you're actually reinforcing. Each time you accept the first reaction, you train your mind to do it again. Faster next time, stronger next time. Soon, it doesn't even feel like a reaction. It feels like who you are. This is just how I think, but it's not. It's how you've been trained to respond automatically, repeatedly, without question. And here's the shift most people never make. You are not your first thought. You are the one who decides what to do with it. But if you never question it, then every thought becomes truth, and every emotion becomes inevitable, and every day becomes heavier than it needs to be. You think life is hard, but you're carrying unnecessary weight. Weight created in seconds, repeated all day. You don't need more control over life. You need control over what you agree with. Because once you agree, the reaction is already decided. Epictetus understood this before psychology existed. He was born a slave. No control over his body, no control over his environment, no control over his future. And yet, he became one of the freest minds in history, not by changing the world, but by changing one thing, what he agreed with. He taught something most people still ignore. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. Read that again. Not things, judgments. Someone insults you, that's the event. Feeling hurt? That's the judgment. You think the insult caused the pain. But Epictetus would say, no, you caused it the moment you agreed, this matters. This defines me. This is bad. That agreement is called assent. And this is where everything changes. Because impressions will always come. Thoughts will always appear. Fast, emotional, loud. You can't stop them. But you can stop agreeing with them. That's the difference between a trained mind and an uncontrolled one. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every day. He would wake up and remind himself, you will meet people who are rude, selfish, ignorant. Not to complain, but to prepare. Because when it happens, the first thought appears, this shouldn't be happening. But Marcus interrupts it. No, this is expected. And just like that, the emotional reaction loses power. Seneca said the same thing differently. The greatest harm is to be carried away by impressions. Carried away. That's what happens when you don't question the first thought. It grabs you, moves you, controls you before you even realize it. But the Stoics trained one simple habit. Pause. Look at the thought and ask, is this true or just an impression? Because the moment you see it as an impression, it loses authority. It's no longer truth, it's just a suggestion. And suggestions don't control you unless you accept them. That's the Stoic edge. Not suppressing emotion, not avoiding life, but refusing to automatically agree with the first version of reality your mind creates. That's where freedom begins. Now apply it, not in theory, in real moments, because this only works if you catch it in motion. Step 1, name it. The moment a strong reaction appears, pause and say, this is an impression, not truth, not fact, not reality, an impression. That alone creates distance. You think naming it does nothing. But it breaks the automatic chain, because now you're observing, not reacting. Step 2, question the judgment. Ask yourself, what am I adding to this? Not what happened. What did I say about what happened? Did I label it as disrespect, failure, rejection? Most of the time, the suffering is not in the event. It's in the label. And labels can be wrong, incomplete, emotional, biased. You think you're seeing clearly, but you're seeing through a filter. This step removes the filter. Step 3, redirect to strength. Ask, what response makes me stronger? Not what feels right, not what feels good. What builds discipline, clarity, control? Because your first reaction is emotional. but your second response can be intentional. That's where power is. You feel anger. The impulse says, react. Strength says, stay still. You feel anxiety. The impulse says, escape. Strength says, face it calmly. You feel doubt. The impulse says, stop. Strength says, continue anyway. That shift is everything. Most people follow the first voice. Few people train the second. Step 4. Delay action. Give yourself space before acting on any strong emotion. Seconds are enough, because emotion fades quickly when it's not fed. You think you need to express it, but most emotions collapse when ignored, not suppressed, just not believed. Step 5. Repeat daily. This is not a one-time realization. It's a practice. You will fail, react, forget. That's normal. But each time you catch it, even once, you weaken the automatic pattern. And over time, your first thought stops controlling you because you stop trusting it blindly. And that's when your mind starts becoming yours again. Now test it. For the next 7 days, do one thing. Do not trust your first thought, not once. Every reaction, pause. Every emotional spike, observe. Every impulse, question. You will feel the resistance immediately because your mind is used to speed, used to certainty, used to being believed. You think this will slow you down, but it will do the opposite. It will remove false reactions, unnecessary stress, imaginary problems. Day 1 will feel unnatural. You'll catch maybe 1 or 2 reactions. That's enough. Day 2, you'll notice more. You'll see how often your mind jumps to conclusions, how quickly it creates meaning out of nothing. Day 3, something changes. There's space, a gap between thought and response. For the first time, you don't feel pulled, you feel stable. Day 4, situations that used to trigger you feel lighter, not because life changed, because your judgment did. Day 5, you stop reacting to things that once controlled you. People, messages, delays, they lose their power. Day 6, clarity increases. You start seeing what is actually happening, not what your mind projects. Day 7, you realize something simple. Most of your suffering was optional, not fake, but created, maintained, repeated, and now interrupted. You think control means controlling the world. But real control is this: choosing what you agree with. Because the world will always send impressions, fast, emotional, convincing, but you don't have to accept them. And in that moment, between the first thought and your response, there is a space. Quiet, invisible, powerful. That space is where your freedom lives, and most people never enter it. Now you can. So next time a thought hits you like truth, pause, look at it, and remember, it's just the first version of reality, and you don't have to believe it.